Thank you, Acting Speaker, and I rise to speak in support of the Roads, Road Safety and Ports Legislation Amendment Bill 2026, and in doing so I want to focus my contributions on road safety and the road management reforms contained within this bill. And let me just say initially, this bill is not about revenue raising and fining people, and people wouldn't get fined and us raising revenue if people didn't break the law. It's pretty simple. Drive to the road laws and you won't get penalised. Pretty simple. That's what laws are all about. Don't break them. And look, it won't be any surprise to anyone in this place that I want to focus on saving lives, as well as improving our accountability and ensuring that our road network keeps pace with a growing state. I think it's worth highlighting that this bill reflects a simple and urgent reality. Too many lives are still being lost on Victorian roads. And of course, as we've heard, speeding alone contributes to about 30% of fatalities, as well as a significant proportion of serious injuries each year. And as I say, due to speeding alone, let alone the nonsensical decision by some drivers or some passengers not to wear seatbelts. And I know in my days in the past as a paramedic, in many situations, people that didn't wear seatbelts didn't end up in the car, they ended up out of the car, and most times dead on the road, unfortunately. And you don't need to be a paramedic to know that behind every one of those statistics is a family, a community, and a future that has been irreversibly changed. And it's the tragedy in these things that it's avoidable, and it's avoidable by common sense and respectful driving and sticking within the road rules. Of course, it's not just speeding drivers that pay the price for the choice that they make. I've seen literally countless instances of those law-abiding motorists, the ones that are driving within the rules and driving respectfully, who couldn't anticipate the actions of a driver that deliberately chose their own selfish needs over the safety of everyone else. And that's what happens when we see these road accidents, unfortunately, in a lot of situations. So when we consider reforms like this bill, we're not debating percentages and statistics, we're debating measures that will directly influence whether people get home safely. And that's what this is all about, making it safer on the roads and allowing people to drive with, as I say, confidence that they can come home safely. Certainly I'd like to thank the Minister in regard to this bill, and the Minister's at the table at the moment, so I thank her and her team for all the great work that they've done in bringing this legislation forward. And it takes practical evidence-based steps to strengthen road safety enforcement and improve how our road network is managed. It does so in a way that is targeted and forward-looking and takes real scenarios into consideration and real-life situations that people have experienced, and of course of all of the data collection from Victoria Police, the coroner, and MUARCs out at Monash University that do a lot of the road accident research. Of course, I want to reflect on the improvements to the road safety enforcement. And of course, one of the most significant reforms in this bill is the expansion of point-to-point average speed enforcement. And I know a few people have spoken to this already today, but it's certainly the infrastructure that affects the Melton electorate. It gives, given that the highways that pass through Melton, the Western Freeway that passes through Melton, and it's a location at the end of the metro area and of course the beginning of regional area as you're approaching Bacchus Marsh. Of course it travels, the Western Highway travels through Melton from an east-west point of view and has a varying speed limit. Many changes in the speed limit along the road, and of course when we upgrade that stretch of road between Melton and Caroline Springs, it will become a freeway and it will have one speed limit on that freeway, which will change the way people drive into the future, which is important that people will be aware of that. Of course, without police radars or permanent speed cameras for both the detection and the perception of detection, to bring about traffic calming, and that's what it's all about. It's about making people be aware that they could be breaking the laws and they could be penalised, that it reduces, as you know, when people see the the roadside camera detections and things like that. They do slow down in that initial vicinity. Whether they speed up again is another issue, but again, some drivers take caution when there are detection cameras. Of course, we all will be familiar with the different types of technology that we're enforcing around this state, and then it measures the time it takes for a vehicle to travel between two fixed points and calculates an average speed. Is already in use across parts of Victoria and has been shown to reduce dangerous driving behaviour, particularly on high-risk roads. But however, the current system has a critical limitation. It can only operate where the speed limit remains constant between the 2 points. But in reality, many of our roads, particularly major arterial roads and routes in Melton, such as the Western Highway and the Old Western Highway, do not operate with point-to-point cameras. There are many speed zone changes and the conditions obviously vary. And as a result, some of the very roads where enforcement would be most effective are currently excluded, which is a shame because people know about that, and the ones that want to break the law will break the law, unfortunately. And in the end, some of those will be caught up in some tragic situations, and some of the innocent people will be caught up in those tragic situations. Of course, back in 2019, through my office, we wrote to the Federal Minister at the time for infrastructure, and that was Michael McCormack, asking about funding and the upgrades that were needed to the Western Highway in my particular electorate. And the response that we got was the highway that thousands and thousands of Western Suburbs residents use every single day was what that they were planning to upgrade the highway, but not in Melton. They were planning to upgrade it from between Ararat and the South Australian border. Ararat's about 161 kilometres west of Melton. And of course, no upgrading of that section on the National Highway is going to help the Melton residents get to work on time or even get to work safely. So we were seeking an upgrade back then from that federal government at that particular time, but there was little interest in it. And unfortunately, over the 10 years of the Liberal National Government, there was no work done on the Western Highway, none at all, not even a murmur that they were going to upgrade the Western Highway. But I noticed our friends opposite criticise our government in regard to neglecting the West and not upgrading the Western Highway. But I'm pleased to say that both the state government contributed $10 million and the federal government, the Albanese government, put in $10 million for a $20 million business plan. And I'm pleased that our two local members, federal members, Sam Ray and Alice Jordan-Baird, were very supportive of that. And of course, out of that, the Albanese government committed $1 billion to start an upgrade of the Western Freeway between Melton and Caroline Springs. And at the moment, there's already pre-construction work that has commenced before that upgrade starts, which I'm pleased to say, having partners out of Canberra working with the state government, it's the first opportunity that people in the West, in my corridor or in my electorate, will see an upgrade of the Western Freeway. And some will scream that it's taken too long. Well, again, it is a federal road, and we had 10 years of Liberal national governments that did nothing for the Western Freeway in my patch. Of course, while we're talking about roads, I want to talk about the removal of 4 level crossings in the local government area of Melton. 3 in my patch, my electorate, and 1 in the electorate of Koroit. And of course, the Hopkins Road bridge over the level crossing will open in only 2 weeks' time, and it'll be a major change for traffic flow within Melton. And then in July, the Ferris Road overpass over the level crossing there in Ferris Road, where the new hospital's being built, the TAFE College. We've just opened a secondary school. There's so much activity going on down at Ferris Road at Cobblebank there that traffic flow will completely change with that bridge going over the level crossing. And then later this year, the Coburns Road and Exford Road level crossings will open up, and they'll be completed and open up later this year, which will change traffic movement in Melton. It will make it safer. It will allow people to go to where they want to go to, schools, the hospital, the TAFE College, out with their friends to the local railway station at Cobblebank. It will change traffic movement, and it's so important in my electorate that those level crossings are being removed and those road networks will be open, all of them, by later this year, which is fantastic for our electorate. Of course, there's a lot more that I could talk on in regard to this particular bill, and I just noticed that I'm running out of time. This is an important bill. I'm pleased to say that the opposition are supporting this bill, although with some contributions you wouldn't realise that, and I commend the bill to the House.
I call the member